Hey everybody, I'm Lauren Khalil with Morning Chalk Up, and today on the show we have CrossFit Games athlete Ellie Turner. How's it going, Ellie?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah,
Oh,
pretty
it's
good. We've
so
just entered into summer in Australia, so it's quite nice.
I know you're in a tank top, you look
Yeah.
tan, spending a lot of time outside, I imagine.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Everyone's out and about, trying to make the most of the sun, so that's good.
Do you try to get any of your training outside during these months?
Yeah, if I have like a run or even like a swim, we have outdoor pools now that are open up over summer. So I try and get most of all of that style of training done outdoors. So you're not in the gym all day, every day. So that's nice.
It's a nice change of scenery sometimes, I can
Yes,
imagine.
very.
So what have you been up to since the games? How was your off season? Did you do anything fun or anything to decompress or relax?
Not really. I After the games, us Aussies had a little bit of a tough time getting back into Australia, so that
Mhm.
sort of delayed it a little bit. And then when we got back here, we had quite an extensive quarantine period. So I think I got out of quarantine start of September. So all that time was sort of spent, like my downtime was spent literally like locked in a room. Um, so by the time I sort of got out of quarantine, I was ready to jump back into training and like move my body normally again. Um, so yeah, my main off season activities probably involved a lot of Netflix and just like laying on the floor in complete boredom, like too bored to do anything, had no motivation to do anything. But um, in saying that, it was a nice, like, forced break from training. I think when you get back and you're so hyped, like, oh, yeah, let's go, let's get back into the season, you sort of like can sometimes cut that break a little bit short.
Yeah.
So it sort of forced me to be like, calm down, take some well needed rest, and then you can get back into it.
Yeah, a forced 2 weeks of not training. It's interesting because, as you're looking through social media and scrolling, you see a lot of the games athletes taking advantage to maybe go travel, spend time with
Yeah.
friends, but going from Madison, Wisconsin to Australia, you were stuck in a hotel room.
Yeah. Yeah. It
What a
was
different
nice.
time to spend your 2 weeks
Yeah.
off from training.
Yeah.
What Netflix shows were you binging on? Anything good?
I think I'm a bit strange, and I only like rewatching shows I've already watched because I don't like
Ooh.
suspense. So
You like to know
I
what's gonna happen.
yeah, I have to know what's going to happen. So I rewatched Schitt's Creek for a bit of a laugh.
Oh, that is a great one. Nice and
Yeah,
lighthearted.
yeah, that's what I needed because it was just like you're not in the best of spirits when you're locked in a room, so you needed something to lift your
Mhm.
um happiness a little bit. So yeah, it was Schitt's Creek and um can't remember. I might have started rewatching like Grey's Anatomy or Suits or something.
Oh, I just started rewatching Grey's Anatomy too. It's crazy, like, some of
Yeah,
the things that you miss or you forget about, and it's
yeah,
almost like watching it for the first time again.
yeah. It's great. I love it.
So then how has training been getting back into it and ramping up as you get ready for the next season?
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit different for me this season. I think last season it was sort of my first trying to make the games. I didn't really know where I stood. I'd only done one sort of competition before that against some of the Aussie girls. So I was just going into the season with the sort of goal of just being as best as I can and seeing where I stand. Um, so this season's been a little bit different in terms of like, okay, I've made the games and that's where I'm aiming to get back to. So I think probably training has taken a bit of a step up from where I was in this position last year. Um, but in saying that, I trust my coach 100%, and I just do what she says, and we talk back and forth to see how I'm feeling and things like that. But um, yeah, it's been really good so far.
What was your first ever games experience like? Finishing 26th overall, like, not really knowing what to
Mhm.
expect. What were some of the, first initial thoughts, and then maybe even some high and lows that you took away after it?
I think the whole experience in terms of like the travel, just being in a whole different country, um,
Mhm,
it was just like added to the games themselves. And I almost describe it to people now as like it literally felt like I was watching myself in like a third person.
mm,
It just felt so surreal and like amazing. I looked left and right, and there was girls that I'd sort of watched for years, trying when I was trying to make the games, and so it was just crazy to think that I was actually out on the CrossFit Games floor. Um, Probably the highs for me um, were probably a few events that I did well at, specifically in the Coliseum. The
mhm.
crowd and energy in there is just unbelievable. And you hear people talk about it, but then you experience for yourself, and it's just incredible. Um, Probably low wise, there was a few events that I knew weren't going to be my events.
Mhm.
Um, and then they probably didn't even go to plan how I would have liked them to go to. So going from those events and then having to pick yourself back up to go into the next one, um, that was a good experience in itself, and just learning how to, compose yourself, um, and not carry any feelings or emotions from the previous event into the next. And that's sort of something you can only get through competition experience. So I'm slowly gaining all this experience and knowledge, and hopefully in the next few years I'll be a little bit more uh, experienced and um, ready to go straight off the bat.
Yeah, and it's like the sport is all about the unknown, the unknowable, almost a little bit of chaos, but experiencing the games for the first time. And I think even in one of your social media posts, you wrote about how it's, one of the scariest things to step out on the competition floor when you know that a workout isn't necessarily gonna go your way.
Mhm.
How do you, like, mentally talk yourself down when you're starting to have some of those thoughts before an event that like, maybe isn't in your wheelhouse necessarily, and you have, you know, thousands of people watching you?
Good question. I still don't think I've mastered that quite yet. My coach is really good for me. She's
Mm,
obviously experienced it before, and um, knows what to say at the right moments. But at the end of the
that's a
day,
good coach then.
yeah, yeah. But at the end of the day, I sort of just had to tell myself, you're at the games. This is your first time. Try and take it in, because you're never going to get this back again. Even first, last, no matter what, like you're at the CrossFit Games doing what you love.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, you can't really ask for much more than that. Just give your best effort, and that's about it.
Do you feel like you're somebody who thrives off of the energy and adrenaline from a crowd, or do you prefer to just work out alone and be in your own head?
No, I love competing. Like, you get me out on a competition floor, and it's like a different person comes out. Um, which is, I just like loved the games format. And I think as well, over in um, the States, I hadn't experienced it before, but we obviously get a very good following in Australia, and
Mhm.
Aussies and New Zealand, like at Torian, it was amazing. But that was the first sort of time I'd experienced a crowd, and um, being out on the competition floor to that extent. So I hadn't experienced that level of like adrenaline and um, competitiveness that I didn't even know I had until I got out there, and I was like, whoa, okay, game on.
Does that make you even more hungry for the next year? Because of course, like, you've been trying to make it to the games, and that's kind of always been the goal, but now that you've gotten that little taste of it, does that fuel the fire that much more going into next year?
Oh, 100%. And I think you almost doubt yourself. You're like, is this really what I want to do? And it's a lot of hard work and sacrifice. And um, you don't really know if it's for you until you've experienced it. And I got out to the games and I just had like this epiphany moment where I was like, this is what I was meant to do. This is what I want to do. This feels right. And yeah, it just made me so much hungrier to try and get out there and prove to myself what I can do again next year.
Let's talk a little bit about your journey actually getting to the games. You and I had spoke previously before you actually got there just about, this year was so different because we could finally have the games in person again, but we still are dealing with the global pandemic. And when it comes to athletes like yourself, other international athletes, that also came with the financial struggles and burden. Looking back now, is there anything different, or is there any way that you could set yourself up leading into next year to maybe not have some of those financial struggles when it was costing thousands of dollars and quarantining and all of these different things just to compete?
If COVID decides to go away, that would help quite a bit. Um, I think most of the increase in travel, I mean, from what I've heard, it's always been expensive. It's not
Mm,
just last year, but COVID plus quarantining, all of that stuff definitely made the price go up quite a bit. So Australia's just starting to open up to international travel again. So hopefully that gets rid of the quarantine fees and the pricing of flights will hopefully go
mhm,
down. Um, but I think like we know what we're getting ourselves into when we get into this sport, and um, I think I could probably speak for a lot of people. Like money's amazing, um, but I personally don't do it for the money. I do it because I
mm.
love it, and no matter what the cost, I would do it anyway. Um, so, I mean, I'm not saying that I want to pay what I did again next year. But hopefully, like, yeah, COVID decides to calm down a little bit and Australia decides to open up. Um, but yeah, I think I'll if I make the games, I'll find a way to get there. So yeah.
Mhm. And speaking of traveling, you're actually going to Montreal to work with your coach in just a few weeks. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I made the decision to head over to Montreal with Michelle. I'm leaving just before Christmas. So I'll have my first white Christmas over there. So I'm a little bit
Oh, yeah.
scared.
You're
Yeah.
not gonna be able to go to the beach in Montreal for
No,
Christmas.
I know.
You need a
I'm a
big
little bit scared.
sweatshirt, a
I know.
winter hat.
Yeah, I'm a little bit scared to be honest, but as long as I've got my layers on, I think I'll be fine. But yeah, we made the decision. I obviously got an invite to Wodapalooza, which will
Mhm,
be amazing. And just trying to get as much competition experience as I can before the next season. So I was going to do that. So coming over to train and see Michelle seemed like the right thing to do. And then uh, I don't really have any set in stone plans yet. I'm just going to go with the flow a little bit, see how I cope with the cold, things like that. Um, but the plan is to head over with Michelle and uh, for the first bit of the season, so the Open and quarterfinals.
mhm.
Um, I've never had an in-person coach before. It's always been online, things like that. So it'll be really cool to have someone there with me, sort of breaking down the workouts, helping me set up, things like that. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Yeah, and don't worry, I'll send you some links on warm weathered clothing. I live in upstate New York, so it gets
Ooh.
really snowy and cold here. They even have, like, heated vests. that you can wear and like
Ooh,
heated socks.
fantastic.
So
Yeah,
don't you worry. I'll hook you all up so that you're outfitted
yeah,
for the north.
yeah, and well, I like to think of myself as a bit solar paneled, like, when the sun's out, gives me energy. So I'm a little bit worried, but I think, Michelle will give me the ins and outs on what to do and what not to do, so
You'll be ready. And even having your coach now in person, has this been a goal since last year? Or at what point did you and Michelle start discussing that this could be something to make you more competitive and get ready for the next season?
It's always been in the back of my mind, but, moving across the country, I'm only 23, so I'm still
Mm.
like to have a little bit of family time and rely on them a little bit. Um, so moving across the country is pretty scary and uncomfortable. So it's something I had to really, think about. But after the games, I just realized that, I'm willing to do anything to make, um, my career even better. And this just seemed like the right thing to do. Before the games, when I was training with Michelle leading up, um, I was like, do people get this all the time? Like, training with their coach. This is just a massive advance, and I loved it. So I thought, change is always scary. Why not just jump straight in? And if it doesn't work out, I'll just come home. But yeah, I'll at least give it a shot.
Do you have siblings or a lot of like cousins or just your parents that live close to you right now? Or what's the family dynamic?
A bit of a complicated family dynamic. My parents are separated, so um, my parents live like about 2.5 hours away from each other.
Mhm.
How many, I've got four brothers and a sister, um, and we're all like very close. So I live with two of my brothers at the moment. We don't
Mhm.
live at home with my parents, but um, in a separate place. And yeah, so we're very family orientated. We spend all of our time together. So it's nice to be close to them. And I think I'm going to miss them quite a bit.
Well, they're just gonna have to bundle up and come visit you.
I know,
But
that's
luckily,
what I
there's, like,
said.
social media and FaceTime and
Mm,
all of those things where
yeah,
you can
yeah,
connect some way.
yeah. I'll probably miss my dog the most, I think, though.
Oh, no. You
Mhm.
have to leave your dog? What kind of dog do you have?
She's a Groodle. So she's a golden
Oh.
retriever cross poodle. I don't know if
Oh, how
you call them like
beautiful.
golden doodles over there or something, but
Yes. Okay, yeah, my parents used to have a golden doodle. Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Oh, they're
here
hyper
we
and a
call
lot
them
of fun.
Groodle. Yeah, they're amazing. She's my
A
like
Groodle. I
yeah.
like that name better.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it, than a golden
Yeah,
doodle. But
yeah.
anyway, yeah, yeah, I love her so much. She keeps me company, and when you've had a hard day and you come home to a happy dog, you can't really be
Oh,
sad
yeah.
anymore. So I'm gonna miss that a lot.
Yeah, I have 2 dogs, and even if I've had, like, the worst day in the world, I walk into my house and you're greeted every single
Yeah,
time. Whether you had a bad day or not, they're gonna greet you and they're gonna make you smile.
yeah, it's amazing.
So going to Montreal, getting ready for Wodapalooza, what are your goals going into the off-season competition?
Just to have a bit of fun, I think. Uh, get comp experience, do
Mm,
as well as I can. Yeah, I don't really have too many goals. I think once the season starts again, then it's like game on.
mhm.
I want to make the games. With this, I just think, I'm only going to learn from this experience. So whatever happens, happens. Might as well have a bit of fun along the way. And I mean, I've watched Wodapalooza for a couple of years now, and it just seems like an amazing, fun bit of a party. Um, yeah, seems great.
Yeah, there's nothing better. Being at the beach, working out, it's the 10th
Yeah.
anniversary, it's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, and I think a few of the Aussie boys are going over as well, so at
Mm,
least have some familiar faces, which will be
yeah.
nice. Yeah. Yeah.
And then after Wodapalooza, will you go back to Montreal for the entire season up until the games?
I think so at this
Mhm,
stage. Um, there was like a little bit of discussion, maybe going and training with Pat for a little bit.
mm.
Um, but I'm really like pretty open and flexible with my plans. I'll just see what happens and yeah, go from there.
Gonna be a good season. Do you have any specific games goals for this year based on the experience that you had last year?
Um, I do, and I think the competitive competitiveness in me always wants to be the best. Um,
Mhm,
but I think yeah, next year probably just doing better than what I did this year, so upping my ranking a little bit.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, as well as I can do is that's just what I'm going to bring to the floor anyway. So hopefully it's good enough.
I'm sure it will be, especially working with your coach in person. I can imagine that that's gonna just be a whole different ball game for you, Ellie. It's gonna be a
Yeah.
good thing, and we look forward to seeing you at Wodapalooza, and good luck to the season. I'll send you some warm weathered clothes because I
Thank
know
you.
you're gonna
That'd be
need it.
great. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks for catching up, Ellie. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.